So I recently had an extremely interesting conversation about artificial sweeteners, and I thought it would be great to share. So one of the individuals that I've been talking to a while and helping with their nutrition said that they wanted to try and cut out artificial sweeteners and simply just see what happened. And I thought this would be a cool experiment, so I decided to go along with it. Their main source of artificial sweeteners was in their coffee and in their water. So really all of their artificial sweetener use was for liquids. And after the first day of cutting out artificial sweeteners, they actually lost 5 pounds. However, they also had one other issue. They had extremely low blood pressure and extreme fatigue. So, what happened? No, they didn't magically lose 5 pounds of fat. However, they did lose 5 pounds of water. So after some further discussion, I actually found out that this individual was drinking about 2 gallons of artificially sweetened water a day. And this is simply because they enjoyed the flavor of their water. And they use this artificially sweetened water kind of as a mental break throughout the day and unconsciously consumed around 2 gallons a day. So when we consume the same amount of water consistently, the body gets extremely adapted at absorbing what it needs and excreting the rest in our urine. For example, there are theories that you can become dehydrated acclimated, meaning better at actually retaining water if you go periods of time where you're only drinking a small amount of water. But I certainly wouldn't recommend this, it's simply just an example. And as most people know, as they increase their water intake, they increase their urine output. And this individual did report that they urinate frequently throughout the day simply because of the sheer amount of water that they're consuming. So when the body is exposed to dehydration, it will produce specific hormones, specifically vasopressin and aldosterone. These hormones actually have receptors on the kidneys where they actually act to increase the expression of proteins involved in reabsorbing water from the urine. Meaning that when we get in a dehydrated state, we'll begin to absorb more water from the urine and urinate out less. However, this process does take a little bit of time. And when we're constantly being overhydrated by drinking 2 gallons of water a day, we simply have a reduced expression of these proteins and counter mechanisms to actually release more water so we can maintain a normal blood volume. And if you're always drinking 2 gallons of water, this allows you to stay normally hydrated and just excrete out the rest in your urine. So when this individual stopped putting artificial sweeteners in their water, they simply drank less water because they didn't enjoy it as much. And looking back on the day, they said that they only drank between a half gallon and 3/4 of a gallon that day. So how big of an effect could this really have? Every gallon of water weighs approximately 8.35 pounds. And because they were drinking 2 gallons of water a day, they were probably urinating out at least a gallon of water a day. So when they extremely quickly reduced their water intake from 2 gallons to 3/4 of a gallon, the frequency and intensity of their urination didn't decrease that day. So that extra water had to come from somewhere, and it came from their body water. And body water is held in the bloodstream and inside the cells. So yes, they lost weight that day. However, it wasn't body fat that they were magically holding on to because of these artificial sweeteners. Instead, it was actually a lot of blood volume causing low blood pressure and dehydration. And by no means does this mean that they should go back to drinking the artificially sweetened beverages to maintain hydration. And I actually think it might be a good thing that they lower their artificial sweetener intake simply so they don't drink as much water. Because when you're constantly drinking all of this water, you become extremely susceptible to this dehydration. However, I did just want to use this kind of as an example of why we may sometimes hear these absurd numbers of weight loss, such as 10 pounds in 3 days. It's important to remember that a gallon of water weighs over 8 pounds. And if you're holding on to excess water or you simply just increase urination and become dehydrated, you can lose a lot of weight very rapidly. With that being said, I just thought this was an interesting concept and thought I would share, and I hope I have the pleasure of speaking to you next video.